Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday Talk. I'm delighted to see such a large crowd, and thank you for joining us from home as well. To get started this morning, I'm going to ask Robin to come up and tell you the story of our first drop-off of ballots at the election office and how that went. Robin, come on up.
Good morning, everybody. Y'all don't care about this subject, do you? This was really neat. Why am I? Okay, never mind. About 1:30, Brant and Sandra Novotko met me in the lobby of the South Building, and we unlocked, with the one key that exists, the ballot box, pulled out the South ballots, locked it up, went to a car, Brant's car, got in, drove to the North Building, went in and did the same thing over there. We had a container that we'd gotten from the South Building. We had a lot of ballots. In fact, we had about 100 ballots. Okay, so thank you all for gratifying us that yes, we're meeting a need here at Regency Oaks, and that's why we're doing this. Okay, so we get over there, we park the car. First thing we see is a couple of people in official-looking clothes and a ballot box, the typical kind of box you'd put a ballot in. Well, we had a whole bunch of them, so they directed us inside. Let me put this down. Sorry about that. And we got inside, and there was another official lady and a ballot box, and they looked at us and they said, "Oh, those are a lot of ballots." And we said, Brant said, "Yes, they are, and we're from Regency Oaks, and told them all about us." They were perfectly happy with that. One by one, those ballots were scrutinized by the elected official who handed it to Brant, who put it in the ballot box, every single one of them. They are deposited. And then we drove home. Yay! Thank you. Thank you for making this service available for us. And I'd like to call for a volunteer to go with Brant and probably Tiffany this week. Anybody want to volunteer to do that?
Friday. What day?
Friday afternoon.
How about when you volunteer?
Wonderful. Don Infante will be your representative this week. Okay. Just very quickly to tell you about Thursday, we have a lady from the elections office zooming to us, much as we did last week, to explain the process, any questions you might have about the actual act of voting itself, about early voting, about where, about why, about what's going to happen with your mail-in ballots, how they're going to be counted, any questions that you have. I would appreciate it. I've tried to anticipate them, so she'll be ready to do a one-way communication with us, but nobody's perfect. Please write any questions you have down on a piece of paper and bring them with you. Okay? The meeting is Thursday at 2 p.m. right here in this room. Okay? Thank y'all.
Thank you. Robin, just to confirm, we're going to be dropping ballots off every Friday.
Okay,
And
what's
then Monday, I believe?
here's probably the last Friday, Halloween that is. There may be a conflict, so we'll either wait till Monday to drop them, which is the Tuesday, the last possible day, and miss that last Friday, okay, or figure something else out. But this Friday and the next Friday, yes, they're getting dropped. Thank you.
On the state of Florida. But the significant thing, and this is what we really need to be tracking, is that middle guide. It's the number of deaths on a daily basis, and you can see that this just continues to decline. Over the last 2 days in the state of Florida, there were 2 deaths the day before yesterday and 1 death yesterday. And so those numbers are the ones that are really important, because we may not ever get to the point of being able to completely control who gets COVID, just like we can't really control who gets the flu. You can get a flu shot, you can use safe precautions, you can practice good social distancing. You may still get the flu. The same is going to probably be true of COVID. It's out there. You're going to get an exposure. You may or may not get it. What's important is that because they have made all these advances on therapeutics and treatments and hospital availability in our ICUs and acute care centers, the probability of you not surviving COVID has improved dramatically. And so that's the significant change. Here's the positivity rate. It's still running in the 9s, and it's because the number had gotten so high initially back in June. The positivity rate was up above 17%, so it continues to come down. This last graph right here in the middle, I think this is interesting, sort of what we've been predicting. You can see the top graph is COVID, the bottom graph is flu. So you can see the blue is continuing to decline, spiked a little there in one day. The flu, the orange chart on the bottom, is continuing to go up, and we are really close to the point where the chances of you getting COVID are going to be less than the chances of you getting flu. So we continue to make progress with all of these numbers. So what I thought we'd do next is take a look at the numbers in the state and Pinellas, and I'm looking at a 7-day comparison because as you try to look at these on a day-by-day basis, the numbers are improving rapidly enough that that day-to-day difference doesn't give us a clear picture. And so the data I'm sharing today is compared to the 6th of October, so we have a 7-day comparison. In the state of Florida, we've had 736,000 cases with a death rate of 15,412. That means that we're losing, over the last 7 days, we're losing about 100 Floridians to COVID, but significant improvement. And you can see that the chart we shared over the last 2 days showed that those numbers were much, much smaller. And so typically what happens, and I know we've talked about this in the past, but late Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday, that information doesn't get shared until Monday or Tuesday of the next week, and so you have some high spikes and some low valleys, but consistently over a 7-day period we're running at about 100. Here in Pinellas County, we're at 23,000 cases, a fatality rate of 783 residents who have succumbed to COVID since March the 12th. And that's about 2.8 residents per day who are dying from COVID here in Pinellas County, where we have over 1 million residents. So those numbers are really quickly improving. Across the country, it's 7,805,000 cases with 215 fatalities. In the testing department here in Pinellas County, we've tested 233,000 residents in Pinellas, and the positivity rate in Pinellas from the onset, March 12th, is about 9.94%. And last week, it was 9.9, so we're seeing a drop in that. That has continued to drop ever since the second outbreak, which started back in June. So some improvement there. And here are the really good numbers. The hospitalizations for COVID here in Pinellas County from day one are 2,377, and in our specific zip, it's 461. And over the last 7 days in Pinellas County, over 1 million people, only 16 people were hospitalized in any hospital with COVID-related illness. And so, again, these numbers are rapidly improving. It doesn't mean we don't need to pay attention, that we don't need to continue to wear our mask and practice good social distancing and be smart about where we go and what we expose ourselves to, but the numbers are improving. The people on quarantine, we have 23 residents in the independent living. Most of those are related to new people who have moved in or people who have gone to a hospital and have returned to the community. We have 12 over in skilled nursing. All of those are related to recent admits. And in the staff, we have one person in IL and one person in skilled nursing that are on quarantine, and that's because of potential exposures. Here's a great number, and it's particularly great because it's 2 weeks in a row. And so that means for the past 14 days, there has not been a single resident or a single staff member in any product line, IL, assisted living, or skilled, who has being suspected of COVID-like symptoms or flu-like symptoms. So the community is 100% clean right now, and that's something we really ought to celebrate. Good job to each and every one of you for doing your part and helping to keep you and your neighbors safe. Okay, I want to look at one other thing, and Don, if you could go to the Excel file down on the dashboard and rate SAFE survey that's put out by the Department of Elder Affairs. This was shared with me by Harry Coble, and I really think this is a great little survey. I have taken it, and how many of you are familiar with it or have taken it? Just Harry. Okay, so I recommend you take some time to do this. It's a little 5-minute survey, and you can go and take it. What it does is it evaluates your behavior and determines whether you're low, moderate, or high risk because of your behavior. It talks about some of your underlying medical conditions, your age. You can put in some demographic data. And then at the end of the survey, it will take a look at are your risk factors significant? How is that going to impact your potential for getting COVID? And then more importantly, if you get COVID, how are you going to deal with that? Are you going to have a mild, moderate, or severe case? It will give you a predictive index, and then it will give you a survivability factor of what it's like to get COVID, how bad it's going to be, and what your rate is. So I'll just share my personal information. I had a pretty high risk factor. And it's because I'm around an awful lot of people. I am in the nursing home, I'm in the independent living, I'm commuting back and forth, I'm with my family. And so as you looked at all that, my risk factors were pretty high. It predicted that I would have a fairly moderate case in terms of symptoms. It was not a severe case. My hospitalization rate was really, really low. And my survivability factor was less than 0.3% of succumbing to the illness based upon my health, exposure, and risk factors. It's really a great survey. It's worth taking a few minutes to do, and it just gives you a personal sense of where you stand in relation to COVID based upon your health and your practices. The survey can be found at Florida Safe Survey, and it's the Department of Elder Affairs. But if you just type in Florida Safe Survey, you'll be able to go directly to that. Real positive numbers, and the fact that we've had 14 days without, we had almost 25 days without a new case, 14 days without any activity whatsoever. we have applied for and received permission to start making some further lifting of restrictions and continuing our slow, steady, consistent progress of returning the community to some level of normalcy. And so I know this is going to be really exciting to you. The first thing that we are going to change is the quarantines. And the actual effective date of this is Monday, although I'm willing to be pretty lenient if you find yourself in one of these categories. So we broke down our loose and strict quarantines, and we broke it down into different individual categories. The first is a new resident. So if you have just moved into Regency Oaks, you used to have to be on a 14-day quarantine. If you're a new resident now, your quarantine restrictions will be lifted at move-in, provided you are not showing symptoms and you submit to a daily screening for 14 days to make sure that you're not a risk for others. Overnight stays at Regency, and these are categorized into two different categories. This is family members, adult daughters who maybe want to come and spend the night, or a grandchild who wants to come and spend the night with granddad. And then it's also our new prospects who are in our guest suites or in a Triet suite to experience Regency Oaks. There is no longer going to be a quarantine required for that. Again, during the length of your stay, you will be required to be asymptomatic and go through a daily screening process. It's not up there, but this will also change in this category to include dining in our dining rooms. And so anywhere you're allowed to go, your family member will be allowed to go as well. Return from hospital. This is the only thing up here that has completely not changed. Well, it's basically unchanged. Hospital stays is still the highest risk exposure on the chart. If you look at the chart of the 100 activities that you can participate in, the number one high risk factor is a hospital stay. And so it's a strict isolation. It's 14 days. The thing that has changed is at the end of 10 days, if you are asymptomatic and doing well and showing no signs of COVID or flu, we will lift the restrictions at day 10, but it's conditional upon you not showing signs or symptoms. Make sense? Urgent care procedures. If you go out for day surgery, we're dropping it from 14 days quarantine to 3, and that's provided you have no symptoms and it's submit to daily screening. And it's no longer a strict quarantine, but a loose quarantine, which means, yes, you will not be able to go to the dining rooms, but you will have access to the outdoor areas, to the mailbox, to takeaways. If you're going to pick up a meal, you just won't be able to eat in the dining room during that 3-day process. If you travel by car, whether it's in city, in state, out of state, you go and visit a daughter, whether they live in Atlanta or Orlando or Sarasota, it doesn't matter. If you're traveling by car, you have no symptoms, and you agree to submit to daily testing for a 14-day period, there will be no quarantine upon your return. If you travel by plane, we're going back to the same as how we're going to treat urgent care procedures. There is a higher risk of exposure because you're in a contained space with a large number of people and you're tightly packed, and so your risk factors go up pretty considerably with airplane travel. So same situation, it's 3 days, it's a loose quarantine, provided you have no symptoms and you submit to daily screening. And then international travel is the other thing that has not changed. So if you take a cruise, down into the Caribbean or you travel overseas out of the country, there is a strict quarantine for 14 days prior to being able to be released back into the community. So pretty exciting news. Okay. So a couple of other things that we will announce that we're lifting. You'll be glad to hear that work orders are going to resume in your apartments. I imagine that we have a 7 or 8 month backup of some work orders. We have only been doing work orders related to plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and higher priority work orders. We're now at the point where we're going to allow maintenance to come back into your apartment. Imagine if each of you have 2 or 3 work orders times 385 apartments. There's a real backlog of work orders, so please be patient. We're going to try to prioritize those, but the guys are going to be allowed to go back into the apartments, and they will be wearing masks, and we ask that if they're working in the bathroom, you please stay in the living room. If they're working in your bedroom, find another place to hang out, just to keep the exposures limited and everyone's safe. Our buses, we're going to double the capacity. Currently, we're restricted to 6. We're going to double it to 12. So our buses will be able to run at 50% capacity. And I expect cheers on this one, big cheers. Effective November 1st, housekeeping is returning to full service, and you'll have housekeeping. You'll have housekeeping every week. So, thank you for your patience. I know this has been an awful long haul for everybody, and we wouldn't have been able to have done it without the residents' support. You've been so cooperative in putting up with the restrictions necessary to keep all of us safe, and as a result of that, Regency Oaks numbers are really good. We've not lost any IL residents to COVID, and wouldn't have been possible without the strong support and cooperation of the residents. So big round of applause for you guys. Okay, flu shot competition. The North must have gotten upset. They were tired of being behind for 2 consecutive weeks, and they got out and got some flu shots. So in the North, we're at 68, and in the South, we're at 54. So we're approaching a quarter of our population that has their flu shot, and that, as you know, that's really, really important as we start to get that herd immunity, and we are working on the staff as well. We've got a couple of great programs for our staff. We will provide the flu shot at absolutely no charge to any staff member who wants it here. If you want to go to your staff member wants to go to CDS or one of the other pharmacies, we give them a free $10 gift certificate and a Chick-fil-A meal at no charge. So we're confident that we're going to get really high percentage from our staff. So North Building, did any of you notice not having power in the middle of the night, other than your clocks didn't work on time this morning? All right, so if you didn't notice, please go back and check your clocks, because if they're not battery operated, they're going to be running behind. We had sent out a notice for our North Building residents that this morning they were going to put in the new transfer switch for the emergency generator. That thing had failed on 2 previous occasions, and that's just not a risk factor that we can afford here at Regency Oaks. And so we had made the decision to order and replace the transfer switch, and that's being finished up this morning. They came to me about an hour ago and said, we need to shut down the power again for about 45 minutes to make all the final connections. I said no, and so they're coming back this evening at 11. So at 11 o'clock, if you're probably right in the middle of a baseball game or a football game and you lose power, it's my fault. So That will finish up tonight, and it should take them just 30 to 45 minutes. I think that is all I have, and we'll open it up for questions. We have a tech committee, and I think we have a couple of representatives in here. We started raising the interest level about doing something to provide community-wide Wi-Fi, an upgrade to our cable TV system, a second insertion for our TV channel so that we could have a TV studio and broadcast meetings like this live. And so we sort of kicked the hornet's nest and started a process, and somehow it got out in front of us. But this is one of those situations where it looks like maybe it has positive consequences, even though they were unintended. And so we had someone show up yesterday, and they I went into the communication room. They started running Cat5 all the way down our corridors, and they're putting in repeaters and transponders and about every 75 feet. And supposedly, this is going to be a campus-wide Wi-Fi solution. It's literally, I don't think we knew that this was being implemented, so I don't have information. I cannot tell you how is it going to affect the width band, wide band? Bandwidth, thank you. And so I don't know if it is enough to do streaming. I don't know if it's enough to cover 100 people at a time. I just don't have any answers yet. I've reached out to try to get a little information on the project, but as Harry points out, this is pretty exciting. Here's the one thing I can guarantee: it's going to be a heck of a lot better than what we currently have. So great question, Harry.
I hate to be greedy. We've lifted restrictions on a lot of things, but how about the tavern?
So tavern is not yet, but I will say that will be the next grouping that we go after. So the last, I don't have the date, I think the last grouping we went was September 19th. So it's about every 2 weeks we ask for lifting a different set of restrictions. And it's almost every other. So once a month we ask for something different. So we won't ask for anything this week, but at the end of next week, we will ask for restrictions to be further lifted from the tavern, and that would occur that last week of October. So not yet, but coming. Now, and maybe you have heard Ricky talk about this, but one of the things that will not be coming quickly in the tavern is takeouts. And we've not been able to figure out in our dining rooms, we have figured out how to seat people and do takeaways at the same time. We have not figured out how to safely do that in the tavern because we have just that one small desk where patrons who are in the tavern are using it and people who would be doing takeouts are using it. And so there are no short-range plans to return pickups to the tavern, but we do anticipate that last week of October being able to further open up the tavern.
I have two questions. One, can we have more than 3 people at the table in the dining room?
So the question is, can I have more than 3 people at a table in a dining room? And so the answer is you can have 3 families at a table. So if there are 3 single individuals, you can only have 3. If there are 2 couples, you can have 4. At one of our 6 tops, if there are 2 couples and 1 single, you can have 5. And so that's the definition.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
221 does not
No,
work yet.
no, it's 3 families.
That's not what we've been doing.
Okay, so it's the correct answer.
Okay.
And if I need to talk to Ricky, I will. But the correct answer is it's 3 families.
3 addresses.
4 people max. 4 people max.
No, it could be 5. It could be.
Going up to 5.
It's 3 families. It could be 2 couples and 1 single.
My question, I think, was, is there going to be a change?
There is not.
No. And my other question is the bus on the way?
The bus is scheduled to roll off of the assembly line on the 15th of this month. And they are supposed to send me a picture, which I will put on 732, of that new bus rolling off the assembly line, and we'll share that with everybody.
This is a rather delicate question. On behalf of 2 residents in the P-Wing, for the last couple of months, we've had a sewage problem.
A what?
Sewerage problem.
Yes, okay.
Clearwater Plumbing has been out. Neither resident can be here because of quarantine. I think it's important that, and I talked to Clearwater Plumbing myself, I think it's imperative that you issue some kind of message to the people in the upper levels of the P-Wing that they should not be dumping cat litter, rags, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah.
This
So-
is,
So in this, the question is, there's a problem in one of the plumbing stacks in the P-Wing that has caused us to have to call Clearwater Plumbing out multiple times over the last couple of months. And we know exactly what the issue is, and I will address it globally. We actually know who's doing it, but this is something all of us should be aware of. You cannot flush incontinent items down the toilet. And so I want you to think about that. If you take an incontinent pad that is designed to absorb liquids and you flush it down the toilet, all of our toilets are stacked. And so your toilet is in line with the neighbor above you all the way up to the 5th floor. And if you take one of those absorbent pads and you flush it down the toilet, it arrives at the very base where the T intersects with the stack, and by the time it gets there, it has completely absorbed all the liquid that it can, and it totally blocks up the stack. And there's nothing wrong with the plumbing. It's been the exact same issue all 5 times that we've removed it, and you cannot put adult incontinent products down our toilets. And so a couple of years ago, we had this issue over in the North Building. It's the exact same cause, and it creates terrible problems downstream, literally. But do not use, if you're using adult incontinent products, please put them in the trash, dispose of them that way. Do not put them into the toilet.
Thank you. Those of us in the basement would appreciate it.
This is a question about the status of the covering over the kitchen area and the pergola, which is holding water and has been holding water ever since it was put up there. What's going on?
So the question relates to the cloth covering over the new outdoor kitchen, and that is scheduled to have that repaired. And I think it's next week. It could be the week after. But the Bobby Cook, who is the contractor, is aware of the problem. He has a corrective solution, and that is scheduled. So that should be happening here real shortly. Thank you.
I have a grandson that has the most beautiful great-granddaughter, but yet they can't, the 3 of them with his wife cannot come and visit me. Is there any way that can be worked out?
Call me. So here's the question. So right now the restrictions are that it's 2 per person at any given time. So your daughter-in-law and a granddaughter could visit, but not 2 granddaughters. If you need to go to 3, call me and we can make an exception as long as we're coordinating it so that we have no more than 10 visitors in the building at any given time. And so remember, I don't think it actually says this up here. You raise a good point. But your visitors are now able to roam about the campus. And so as part of lifting of these quarantines, that's going to be included in there as well. So great question, and thanks for clarifying.
My turn?
Yes, sir.
CDS, I've been through several corridors, and it seems like they don't want to finish, when they finish a job, is clean up thoroughly, because there's drywall dust in the hallways. And it stays there for a day or two, but it seems like it would take the 5 minutes to just vacuum up the mess in the hallway. I know they're going to make a mess. It's just a matter of cleaning up after they've done the day's work. And while I'm on it, CDS has been, and this goes back to when Linda Baldwin had complained about this, about using the luggage carts for construction and maintenance material. They're looking pretty shabby still, again. And I know for the new people, we had a thing called Trinkets and Treasures at one time, and she actually bought some new luggage carts to replace some of the ones that have been broken. So, and that adds to it, they're using resident equipment, because one day, about a week ago, they used one of the recycle barrels to transport debris. And because it had wheels, they didn't have to lift anything. And of all things, it was on our floor. They dumped it down the garbage chute. You know, because our garbage chute was pretty dusty for a few days. It seems like we need to get a message to CDS to use their equipment and use it properly.
Yeah, got great point, and this is an ongoing situation. I have to frequently remind Juan and his workers that the luggage carts are not to be used by the contractors, that he needs to vacuum up at the end of the day and help keep our corridors clean when his workforce is in the apartments. And the luggage carts, on a broader sense, we need a better solution. We do have probably 20 of those luggage carts, and half a dozen of them are assigned to maintenance. And so when we take a luggage cart away from residents because it's just beat out and you can't, it's awful looking, we assign it to maintenance. And so sometimes when you see maintenance using them, it's one that's been assigned to them. But we need a better solution for maintenance or for luggage carts, and we're looking at options. We're trying to find something made from titanium or concrete that will hold up better. I mean, those luggage carts just take a beating, and so they look awful. I'm aware of it, and so we are trying to find a not higher quality, but maybe a less ostentatious but more workable solution. Something that's made from instead of gold flake with carpeted bottoms, maybe we can find something that'll just stand up a little bit better. And so we are looking to see if we can find something. Great point.
Over here. It's very good news about the bus arriving.
She already said that.
What kind of a time frame? How long now will it take?
So the bus rolls off the assembly line on the 15th, and it has to go to a DOT inspection so that they can legally drive it. And I don't know how long that takes. I can't imagine it taking more than 3 days. It has to go to the graphic shop to get its decals, and you would think that would take 3 or 4 days. And it's coming out of somewhere up in Illinois, and so it's going to have to be driven down here, and that ought to take 3 or 4 days. So I'm thinking by the end of October, we actually will see the bus in our parking lot.
It'll fly in here on Halloween.
Soon.
Good morning, Brent. Could you just once again tell us when the visitors restrictions of coming in and roaming the place? Is there a timeline, or was this effective Monday, or is it effective now? Or?
So the quarantine restrictions that are being lifted are technically effective Monday. That's just the date that they approved them. But, you know, I've been known to look the other way.
Okay, but you said visitors, like our relatives could come and visit.
But
Yes.
still a couple.
Still, it's limited to 2, but if you need 3, call me, and if there are less than 10 people visiting at that time in your apartment, I can make an exception up to 10.
Okay.
Not 10 individual visitors, but 10 visitors in your building at one time.
And they could visit us on the breezeway.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And the dining room?
Let me think about that. Breezeway, I'm absolutely comfortable with. It is outdoor space, and so certainly you could do a takeaway meal, go to the Breezeway, eat with your family. I'm very comfortable with that. I'm not quite sure we're ready to go to the dining rooms yet.
Is that Monday yesterday or Monday next?
It's Monday next, but again, it's approved. It's just the approval date's 4 days away, 4 working day, business days away.
South building, as you face it, to the left is a tree that's dead. It doesn't look very nice, but people get touring and everything.
So facing the building, or
Facing the south building, there's a little dead tree there. It's been there for a while. And so you have to replace it, but it should be at least taken down so it looks a little bit better.
Brad, I got that taken care of.
okay. Walt has that taken care of.
Sent a note to Corey yesterday. He knows about that and 2 other items. He said he will take care of it immediately.
Another thing, the entryway where you took that big tree down, that other one's sort of dead too. It's trying to survive, but it looks terrible.
It does look terrible, and so the strategy, we're getting ready to do the exact same thing over here behind the in wing, and there were 2 trees that were growing like side by side, and they both looked terrible. And so the thought process, the arborist says, well, it's not getting enough food and moisture because it's up against a curb, or there's not adequate soil, or there's not enough ground to support 2 trees. So we chopped down one with the idea that allows the other one to thrive. And so it hasn't thrived yet. But I think what we do, at least the thought process, is at the start of the growing season, we'll fertilize the living daylights out of it between now and April. And then at the start of the growing season, we'll see if that tree can thrive now that the other one has been cut down. And we're literally getting ready to do the exact same thing over here back on the backside of the in wing.
Since we're speaking about trees, can you tell us or explain to us why the certain trees have something tied around them? What's going on?
Well, so the rumor is, so we are having design meetings on the Town Hall and Wellness Center, and so the surveyors have been here, the engineers have been here, the land soil boring company has been here, and as part of that process, they identified the trees that they are trying to save in their design features, and they tied them with a white ribbon. So if you see a white ribbon, that means it means they're trying to save that tree. And so there is, as we speak, there is a guy out there from the Whites Company. It's a construction company out of Des Moines, Iowa, that does the vast majority of the construction for LCS, and he's here to do a preliminary bid on the project. So we are moving forward. There's another meeting this afternoon at 1:30 to finalize the conceptual drawing. And then once we have the conceptual drawing, we'll take it back to the residents, solicit input from our committee and from the residents, share that information back with the design team, and we're making progress and moving forward on this. And the fact that they've invested more than $1 million so far in the feasibility studies and the soil sampling and the engineer and the all the upfront costs, that's an encouraging sign. The project has been approved. They've reiterated on a number of different opportunities that COVID has not impacted that. Their decision is made. The funds are committed, and they're moving full speed ahead. So never as fast as any of us would like to see, but they are moving forward, and we should have a conceptual drawing to share shortly.
Yeah. There's a group of, do I need the mic?
Yes.
I do?
Yes.
There's a group of about 15 musicians that used to meet every second Saturday of the month in the Grand Lobby South. The group is made up of about 50% residents, and the other 50% are invitees. But we haven't been able to do it, for like 6 months. They're very eager to start again. And the way I read your comments today, we can have guests up to 10.
You can have guests, but it's no more than 10 guests in any building at one time.
Okay, we meet that criteria.
You meet that criteria provided no one else in the South building have guests in the building.
Okay.
So if there are 6 people who have an adult child visiting, you'd only be able to maximize 4.
Okay, that's going to be very difficult because it's hard to tell.
Yes.
Invite 10 people and we never know who's going to show up.
And so that's why, if you'll remember, that's why your guests are supposed to be scheduled in advance so that we can control that number. And then what happens is at the front desk, I have a log, and if you didn't schedule, we will still let you in up until the point we hit 10. If we hit 10, we will say, I am so sorry, we've reached our maximum capacity, you'll have to visit another day, can I schedule a time for you? And so you're right, it's you need to coordinate it through our front desk, and we don't have it on anything other than a first come, first served basis. And so it's the first 10, and once those 10 are reached, that's our maximum capacity.
Okay, we can work with that.
Yeah.
Ask how far in advance you have to be. Ask how far in advance.
So right now, just as a general, this is a general answer, there are days where we hit 8, 9, 10, but we average about 4 visitors in either building at any given time, because remember, we're open 24/7. So, but we average, I think, about 4 visitors an hour.
But I believe the policy is all visitors have to exit the building by 8 p.m.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, that's not true. and I know, I know a lot of people add on caveats and change things and expand or underestimate, but there are no time restrictions for independent living. Just no more than 10 people in the building at any given time. All right. That's it. All right. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming out, and thanks for you at home for tuning in. Have a great day.